Hey guys, Jake Steele, Iron and Steel. This is podcast episode number 9. And man, thanks so much for being here. So I want to say right off the bat, thank you to everybody that has been sending me messages, emails, and private messages saying how much they enjoy the podcast. I get a lot of messages that say, I'm not a podcast guy, I don't listen to podcasts, but I've been listening to yours and I really enjoy it. So that means a lot. Thank you for all those messages. If I can make one request, it would be, don't just tell me, tell your friends, tell anybody that'll listen, because it takes a lot of work to produce this content, articles, photos, and the website stuff alone is a lot of work. And then taking those stories, converting them to audio, the podcast thing, doesn't seem like it would be a lot of work, but for one guy, and the social media stuff, I mean, it's a lot. It all adds up. The compound of all that stuff is a lot. So it takes a lot of my time, and I wouldn't do it if people didn't enjoy it. So I appreciate the fact that I'm getting feedback that people enjoy it. But don't just tell me, tell your friends. Some of the small things you can do too to support me, just go to the website, ironandsteel.com, hit the subscribe button, just punch in your email, and then that way you'll get alerts for new content. I send like email blasts out for every article, every podcast that comes out. I send out like a newsletter thing saying that it's, there's a new episode or whatever. So all that stuff helps to drive traffic to the site and is beneficial to me. It makes it, if I'm seeing people on the site and getting feedback and people are seeing the content, getting the content and enjoying it, then I'll continue to do it. So again, ironandsteel.com. Hit the subscribe button, punch in your email, tell your friends if you enjoy the content on the site or this podcast, just let people know. I would really appreciate it. So speaking of content on the website, I'm going to read an article today that is on the website. It's called Get Some Patience Now. And the theme, I guess, of the whole thing is basically just some tips and things that I've learned along the way. Especially in my earlier years when I was just kind of trying to get into this stuff. Some things to do and not to do when you're trying to build a hot rod. I use a Model A coupe as an example in this story, and kind of just go over the right way to go about, finding one, buying one, with the end goal being to build a traditional hot rod, basically. So again, ironandsteel.com, Get Some Patience Now. You can check that article out there. There's 30 other articles on the site and new ones every week, basically. So when you have time, hop over there, spend some time, check that out. So in the meantime, kick back and relax, and I'll read you the story. Thanks again for being here. I was in my early 20s. I had squirreled away about $3,000 in my hot rod fund, and I was on the hunt. Every day, I'd scour the internet, Craigslist, eBay, the Ham, wherever I could, looking for a suitable starting point. Now, like a lot of us, my goal at the time was a Model A coupe. I had spent a lot of time on the Ham drooling over highboy coupes with hard chops, and I was just getting to know guys like Chris Swenson and his brother Corey, and taking note of some of the cars they were messing around with at the time. I remember specifically Corey had built a 30 or 31 coupe with a 5-inch chop, sitting high on basically a stock frame with a hot banger motor in it. And I remember just thinking it was perfect and right up my alley. And that's what I was set out to do. Like I said, I was spending a lot of time searching, and I had found a couple of cars here and there, and I had a few grand set aside. But I found that for the money that I had, I wouldn't be buying a running car, or even a complete car for that matter. I was looking for a body. In fact, I remember at the time, I wasn't even looking at complete cars. I was only looking at bodies. And this was mistake number 1. The trap was set, and I was destined to spin my wheels and waste my time. But this is how we learn, right? Well, in hindsight, had I been looking for complete cars, I would have found that just a couple $1,000s more than what I was looking to spend would have bought a lot more car. What do I mean? Well, look at it this way. A bare bones Model A coupe, just a body, in salvageable shape, needing the average amount of patch panels and sporting its fair share of dents, road rash, and bumps and bruises, will cost you somewhere around $3,500. It'll be a little more if it's exceptionally nice, and this was basically true back then too, and that's kind of the range I was looking in. So let's take a look. What do you get for your $3,500 when it comes to a Model A coupe body? Or more importantly, what do you not get? Here's what I've found after spending my first few years of, quote, hot rodding, running in place like a fucking dipshit. The Model A coupe body you just bought for $3,500 looks like a great bargain, right? Well, maybe not. Let's take a look. You start to really examine it hard. I guess I'll need to look for some garnish moldings. Okay, no big deal. A couple $100, whatever. Maybe it's missing the dash panel. $50, fine. They're cheap. Now the vinyl insert in the roof is long gone, and you knew that, but you didn't notice at the time how bad the wood in the top was. Better look that kid up. Wait, what? $500 fucking dollars? Ouch. A little further digging, and you're going to find yourself nickel and dimed to death. Garnish moldings, a wood kit, dash panel, window regulators, the latch assemblies for the doors, and a few other things are all pretty common to be missing from the bodies that are in this price range. And all of those things cost money. Of course, we haven't even gotten into the body repairs that it needs yet. And please don't tell me you fell for the patch panels are cheap line. Yes, they are cheap. But wait, what do you mean you don't know how to weld? So, somehow you've justified buying this rusty piece of shit because the guy selling it told you what you already knew, that you could buy all the patch panels that it needs for a couple $100. Well, that's great, but how will they make their way onto the car? Now you have to hire a skilled tradesperson to install them for you. Oh, and have him fix that sub rail and the floor in the trunk while he's in there. So your $3,500 body is now turning into more like a $5,500 body, just to get to the point of resembling a car again. And we haven't even talked about the things that you really want to do to this thing, like chop it. We've also not even started hinting around at how that frame that's sitting on jack stands in your garage is somehow going to magically turn into something that runs and drives. Congratulations, you just played yourself. I believe that's what's the hot phrase these days. That's what the kids are saying, right? Now, there is an alternative. It requires a little more patience and maturity. Certainly a lot more than I had at this time. And if you're a young guy in the same position, you probably won't listen to me the way I wouldn't have listened then either. But here we go. When it comes to a Model A little bit more money buys you a lot more car. Listen, these cars are weird. There's a certain point that they don't cross over money-wise, and there's a certain point they don't dip below. And in the middle, there's a nice average. And on the low end of that average is the sweet spot for hot rodders like us looking for cheap thrills. Now, in my experience, an average price for a driver quality Model A is right around $10,000. But when we start talking about this category, there's also the lower end of that scale too. It is not uncommon at all to find a complete Model A coupe that does technically run, advertised for about $7,000. What you'll be getting is an older amateur restoration And these cars are the ones that Grandpa put together in the 80s in his garage. He just wanted a car that looked good enough to get ice cream one day out of the month, on a Sunday. He wasn't building it for a concourse trophy. These cars are the ones that were painted in the garage because Gramps wasn't about to pay somebody when he could do it himself and have it come out looking just as good, according to him. Copious amounts of all thread was used wherever possible, and you better fucking believe that when it comes to the wiring, he put it all together with those orange wire nuts that are meant for house wiring. But it will be a complete car that moves under its own power and resembles an automobile more than it does yard art. Now you're probably thinking, I don't have $7,000, I have $3,500. Great, you're halfway there. Even closer if you have even a small ability to haggle, even a little bit. Also, you saved that $3,500, you can save $7,000, trust me. And the reward for your patience is that you will be money ahead long term and with a lot less heartache along the way. And here's why. The reality is that at the end of the day, you should be able to buy that $7,000 Model A coupe for $6,500, bare minimum. And of course less if you're good at negotiating. But let's just call it $6,500, and here's where you are now. You have a car, not a pile of rusty parts, that runs, and not only that, it has things bolted to it all over the place that you, the hot rodder, do not want. And here's the best part. Other people do want that stuff, and they will pay you money for it. Fenders, running boards, splash aprons, bumpers, the stock wheels and tires, the spare tire bracket, headlight bar and headlights. All this stock bullshit is worth money to an older guy, just like the one that you probably bought this car from, who is restoring his own Model A. So now instead of shoveling money into a pile of junk, you're going the other direction and making money back off of parts that you're selling. You should be able to recover around $2,000 of your $6,500 investment just by selling the stock equipment off that you didn't want anyway. And at the end of the day, you can be in a running car that can be enjoyed right now as you tinker on it for $4,500 to $5,000. A far, far better alternative, and all for nothing more than exercising just a little patience and playing your cards right. Now, if all of that sounds like a lot of work, believe me, it's actually far less work in the long run than going about it from the opposite direction. I have attempted both multiple times in my youth, and what I've found is that it's a lot smarter to spend a little bit more money up front, buy the nicest car you can to start with, and the nicest car you can afford. Unless you like spending time, unlimited money, and frustrating hours spinning your wheels in the garage, doing nothing, not getting far. I, on the other hand, would prefer to just go for a drive. Okay, there you have it. Get some patience now. IronandSteel.com is the website. You can go there and check that story out firsthand if you want to. I think it's on the second page. It's a couple years old, but it's buried in there somewhere. Speaking of that story, that was the first time, not that you care, but that was the first time I've read through one of those stories without stopping, like in one take for this podcast. That may sound dumb, but boy, it is deceivingly hard to read a story out loud, like off of a piece of paper, and have it sound okay. So usually what happens is, you stumble over a word, or you lose your place, or, whatever happens, and you have to start over. So usually I'll do like a paragraph at a time, and then I have to edit all that stuff together, and hopefully it sounds, cohesive and seamless, and sounds okay. But yeah, for whatever reason, I read all the way through that and didn't stop. And so, like, if you like heard me breathe weird or fucking a paper shuffling here or there, I don't know what to tell you. This shit's free, so you get what you pay for. Anyway, I forgot to mention at the beginning too that I'll do a quick little Q&A deal. I've been trying to do a Q&A at the end of every podcast just because I do get a lot of questions. Sometimes I'll ask for questions or feedback or whatever, but I get a lot of unprompted questions as well. So we'll jump through that. I'll go through this Q&A thing, and then we'll say our goodbyes, and you can get back to kicking your dog or whatever the fuck you were doing. So the first question that I got was, it says, the future, what does the future hold for our hobby / electric cars? That's the question. So I guess the implication, or I guess what they're getting at is, what is the impact on electric cars and our hobby? And is our hobby at risk because of this electric car thing? Excuse me. So here's my take on electric cars. Are there electric cars on the road? Yes. Are there going to be more electric cars on the road in the future? Yes. Are electric cars going to take over, and like, I guess worst case scenario is gasoline is like banned or something? So, you know, is the electric car going to take over and our hot rod stuff, the hobby, just gets flushed down the toilet? I don't see that happening in our lifetime. And if you want to know what I think the greatest risk to our hobby is, and the greatest threat to the hobby, it's not electric cars and it's not a gasoline ban. The greatest threat to our hobby is the fact that there are not enough young people coming up that are interested in these cars. Period. So that's the biggest threat, in my opinion. You know, electric cars and gasoline bans and all that stuff, you know, maybe at some point. But the scarier thing is the fact that kids are into, you know, Subarus and, you know, no offense to Subaru guys, whatever. But not enough kids are interested in hot rods. And I think, you know, if this hobby goes up in smoke, it's going to be because there weren't enough people interested to keep it going. So that's my opinion. Next question says, when will your 32 be done? Yeah, look, I don't know. It's, I need to get motivated. Funny, I actually originally had signed that car up for Hot Rodorama in Pendleton, which at the time of this recording, I'm leaving for that show tomorrow. By the time you're listening to it, that show's already done. But I had signed that car up for that show. Look, obviously didn't make it. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I need to get motivated. I don't know when it'll be done, but you know, hopefully I'll be driving it soon. That's all I can say. The next question says, choosing between 30 Roadster or 26 Roadster for Hot Rod Project. I guess this is a younger guy too, speaking of younger people. I guess what he's saying is, or what he's asking is, which would you, between a 30 Roadster and a 26 Roadster, which would you build or whatever? It's all personal preference, but my opinion, I would build the Model A Roadster. I love Model A's, and they make a killer early hot rod, and of course Model T's do too. But you know, look, it's whichever you prefer, and it's whatever you're trying to build or whatever. But if it were me, I would lean toward the Model A. So there you have it. Do what you want, though. Just don't build a Subaru, please. That's all. The last question is fucked up. The last question says, why do you hate on flatheads? Okay, look. Here's the deal. I don't hate flatheads at all. I love flatheads, as a matter of fact. I own several cars that are flathead powered. And I like to jab at, you know, the flathead, hardcore flathead guys, and kind of poke fun about flatheads occasionally. But I don't, in all seriousness, I don't hate flatheads. They're a great motor. They're obviously, that's where hot rodding really started. But my poking fun at flathead guys stems from the fact that a lot of guys want to pretend like small block Chevy is, you know, not traditional, or, you know, whatever. I mean, people want to call them belly button motors and all this shit, and it's like, so long story short, I love flatheads. I also love an early small block Chevy. And, you know, if you want to be factual about it, there's no way you can argue the fact that when small block Chevy came out in 55, that guys were fucking throwing their flatheads in the river. like these dudes, when they saw the power and the reliability of the small block Chevy, a lot of guys went to small block Chevy in their hot rod. And you can't deny that, and you can't, you know. So flatheads, I love them. Small block Chevys, I love them. I just like to poke fun at flathead guys because they want to pretend that small block Chevy isn't a traditional motor and it's a belly button motor and it's all that shit. It's like, you know what? Look back in history a little bit, and you'll see a lot of small block Chevys when they came out, 55 or whatever. Guys were, I mean, they were running them like crazy. So why do you hate on flatheads? I don't hate on flatheads. I don't hate flatheads. I love them, but I also like small block Chevys, and for that matter, Hemis and Olds motors and everything else. So I just don't think that one thing fits everything. So I have a problem with guys that say like, oh, they never did that, or that's not traditional, or whatever. The point is, like, back in the day, these guys were doing whatever they could do to go faster, and that's just what it was. So flatheads are great, small blocks are great, Hemis are great, they're all great. So yeah, fuck off, do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't hate flatheads. So all right, that was the last question that I had for this Q&A. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, ironandsteel.com is the website. Please go there, sign up, punch in your email, hit the subscribe button, and I'll send you, I'm not going to like overwhelm you with emails or anything, but you might get an email or two a week. Anytime there's new content, whether it's article on the site or a new podcast, I send out like a newsletter type of thing that just lets you know. So it's a good way to stay in the loop. So yeah, go to ironandsteel.com, sign up, and stay on top of new content. So again, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I guess I'll talk to you guys again in exactly 1 week. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.